If you like fall hair transformations, then keep watching to see how I created this beautiful multi-dimensional rose gold on previous brassy blonde hair. I know it's kind of hard to see in this lighting, but my client actually has a lot of leftover blue tones from when she was previously a gray color. One of my client's biggest concerns from growing her hair out is that she said she wanted to be able to have her natural roots. And she said as her hair is growing out from being blonde, she just hates the harsh line. So I suggested that even though we're going darker, that we just soften her roots a little bit with a partial foil and around her hairline. That way when she pulls her hair up, you don't see like a heavy straight line of demarcation from her blonde to her roots. And even though you won't be able to notice the foil very much, it will just soften it a little bit. So that way when we put the color on, since it's not a permanent color and it won't shift her roots, at least having a little bit of a partial foil there, it will be able to grab the color so her roots look a little bit softer instead of just being flat black roots. Around her hairline, I just did 3 to 4 foils that were vertically placed. That way, when she pulls her hair back, again, it just looks natural, kind of like a sun-kissed highlight instead of the harsh racer stripes that horizontal foils tend to create. And then again, just a few foils at the top of her hairline to kind of brighten it up a little bit more. So that way she has a little bit of a soft money piece. Even though it's not going to be too bright, a little bit brighter on the hairline is always nicer. So here as I'm finishing up my foiling, you can tell that I really just did a simple minimal foil. I didn't do like from the top of the ears and the whole top of the head. I really just did from where she parts her hair and over a little bit to make sure that you can see when her hair is parted, whether it's in the center or on the side, that she's got a little bit of brightness throughout her roots. But other than that, I just didn't want to do it too heavy, and doing something simple like this can really make a difference in the overall appearance of the color without doing such a heavy foil. It doesn't always take so much work or such a heavy foil to create the best look. Once I finished foiling, I decided to go through and try to brighten up some of these extra orangey areas. So I just kind of went through, weaved her hair, backcombed it, and did a soft balayage. She has so much orange splotchiness, and I just knew that the color wasn't gonna turn out very good since her hair is already a pretty darker blonde with a lot of unwanted warm tones. So to create that super bright rose gold, I knew was going to be hard to achieve if I didn't go through and just try to brighten it up at least a little bit. The underneath, I decided that I was just going to keep it dark because that would just be way too much to try to lighten it up. So we just focused a lot of the brightness in the top area. So here you can see her roots just from the foils. We wanted to break her roots just a little bit just to get rid of that harsh line. And I think just adding this really small foil did a good job. Here I am doing a toner with Guide Tang Sandstorm just to try to even everything out. If there's some extra blonde areas, this will kind of soften it up and even out her canvas. So I'm just kind of soft drying her hair a little bit, not completely dry. You can tell that the toner really helped even out her hair. She does have a lot of warm orangey splotchiness throughout her mid ends and underneath, but that's just something that I can't focus on and try to worry about. I'm just gonna have to try to blend it out and work with the color instead of trying to worry about somebody else's work. I just got to try to do my best to try to even out her color as much as possible. So now I'm going to go through and we're going to start applying her darkest level, and we're going to start with her roots, and then after we do her roots, we're going to comb it through her ends. Normally when I do colors like these and I try to melt the tones together, I always try to start with the lightest color and then build on top of it. But because she has so many uneven tones and uneven warm tones, especially in her hair, with the darker colors kind of through her ends and the lightest color sometimes up at her mid shaft and roots, I just figured that I'd start at her roots with the darkest tone and then work my way down one color at a time. So here I'm just applying at her roots again, and I find that if I go at a diagonal in my sectioning instead of straight across at the root, it's a lot easier to have a little bit more of a shadow drop on her roots instead of trying really hard not to get too far down the hair when I get up closer to her hairline. This just kind of naturally helps me apply where I need to. And then once I apply at her roots everywhere, then I'm going to go back through and then start combing through her ends to make sure that she has good saturation. So here around her hairline, I always just try to tap her hair just as little as possible. I don't like dragging the color down too far. I really want to try to preserve as much brightness around the face as possible. So just tapping it a little bit is all that I try to do instead of combing it through super heavily around the front of the face. Once I'm done applying at the roots, I go back through and give it a good comb through all the way around. I want to make sure that the hair is evenly saturated, kind of in a nice halo drop from the front to the back evenly around. That way she doesn't appear to have the darkness kind of dropping down a little bit further on one side than the other. And then not all the time, but sometimes after I apply the color, I go back through and I will just paint huge ribbons of color throughout the hair in big panels. This way it will just give the hair lots of dimension. I don't want it to be just a soft dark to lightness. I still want there to be a nice blend of the color from dark to light, but I also want there to be a lot of dimension throughout the ends too. And doing this helps create that dimension without it being too harsh. Here she is after processing for 25 to 30 minutes. You can tell where the darkness is. I love how the color looks. She still has a lot of brightness around the face. And then after this step, we will go through and apply the mid-tone. So now I'm going to go through and reapply the second tone. I'm not as worried about this color as I was the darker roots, just because I know that this is going to be brighter, so I'm not going to be as picky if it gets right along the hairline or through her lighter pieces. So I'm just going to apply it, and then as I go back through, then I will comb it through her ends again. So now that the color is starting to process, you can kind of see how it's developing. You can see where that darkness is from before. You can see around the front of her face how she still has that brightness. I'm super excited at this point to see the final result, because I love seeing all the dimension and the tones blending together, and of course having that super pretty bright color around her face. Now we go through and comb everything out. Make sure that the hair is evenly saturated, that there's no spots where color got skipped on. We don't want to have a color that has splotchiness. So going through and always making sure to check your work is never a bad idea. So we just run it through the ends, make sure that the ends are saturated too, but not as much, because we do want to keep the ends a little bit more on the brighter side. So here's our color fully processing. We do have that pre-tone of Sandstorm through the ends. So even though we didn't drag the color super heavily through the ends, she's still gonna have a nice even blend. So here's the final result. My client was super excited for all the different tones, for the rose gold. Just turned out perfectly from her pictures that she had sent me. She's super happy, and I love all the dimension and how the color turned out.